And I quickly just typed into here, please give me modern scientists who support the fine-tuning argument. So Paul Davis, physicist, Arizona State University, he's not Christian, more of a deist, agnostic, writes extensively on cosmic design. He quotes, the impression of design is overwhelming. Martin Rees, leading British astrophysicist, wrote just 6 numbers about how a few finely tuned constants given the universe. Quote, if any one of these numbers was different, there would be no stars, no complex life, no elements. There's John Polkinghorne, physicist of Cambridge. He's an Anglican priest. Anthropic fine-tuning is too remarkable to be dismissed as just happy accident. Francis Collins, geneticist, former director of the Human Genome Project, who actually became a Christian because of this. Or was it because of DNA? I think it's because of DNA. He said, quote from the language of God, when you look at from the perspective of a scientist at the universe, it looks as if we knew we were coming. Looks as if it knew we were coming. Luke Barnes, University of Western Sydney, cosmologist, strong defender of fine-tuning, argues it points to God. Young Australian astrophysicist, co-author of A Fortunate Universe, with atheist Jerian Lewis. Fred Hoyle coined Big Bang. A common sense interpretation of the fact suggests that a superintelligent has monkeyed with physics. John Barrow. And then there's also, I remember reading, what's his name? Stephen Hawkins. He said that if the Big Bang was like a millisecond faster or slower, it would have not collected planets and stuff, and any slower, and it would have collapsed. Basically, it wouldn't have. It was perfect just for life. And then Richard Dawkins and Cosmic Skeptic, aka what's his name, something O'Connor, they're famous. Alex O'Connor, famous YouTuber. He said that the fine-tuning argument is the most convincing argument for God. So let's see what Deconverted Man says.
And they pretend it means something that the author of the scientific paper himself says, that's not what I meant by that. And if you want me to link you to that interview, let me know in the comments, not in the side chat, because I want, when this is done being live, it will be a video and you can comment on it. Maybe I'll remind myself. Post vid guy talks about. Okay. Ogen Jen, why are you Christian? I'm not Christian. I'm talking about a video that this guy did. And the original video is in the link. Hold on screen here. This guy is following Christ is his name. Okay. And so my video is called Following Christ Doesn't Understand Things, more exclamations, right? Because I'm responding to his video, but his audio was so bad that I decided to copy the transcript.
Yeah, you've said that like 5 times now.
And read from it to you to explain what's wrong in his script. Okay. Why do I care? Because I care about reality and I care about what's right and wrong. And I care about logic. And this guy's doing improper logic and improper science. He's lying about what atheism is, and I have to correct him because I care about the truth.
Okay, cool. Like I said, I'm not lying. Like if something I say is wrong, that's me having either misheard information or I simply don't know. But I'm not like intentionally lying. You know what I mean? He keeps calling me a liar, and I just think it's just not fair, is it?
Thanks for the questions. Why? Because lobsters exist.
That's something we can agree on.
All right. So the fine-tuning of the universe isn't really a thing, and this is...
Again, like, he says he cares about the truth, and he looks at evidence. I don't know what I'm talking about. But he hasn't provided... I think, he provided me with one reference, didn't he? He's actually called me a liar more times than he's mentioned any scientist. I haven't heard him mention one scientist yet.
Backwards way of looking at it, because the theist doesn't even understand that fine-tuning isn't really a thing. But they pretend that it means, well, all these constraints and there's these numbers, and that if it was different at all, that life wouldn't be possible. But that's not true. We don't know what it would be like.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the theist doesn't really... But what about these guys? And what about Stephen Hawkins?
Things were different. If gravity wasn't within this field, life would be impossible. Okay, cool. And it is, so life is possible. But they pretend that because you have all these things, that must mean that the probability of life is so great that therefore God.
I'm not saying it must mean. I'm just saying that, like, it points towards a God. So we can't prove anything, can we? Like, you can't even prove I'm real. I could be AI. But what I'm saying is that when you add one piece of evidence plus another piece of evidence plus another piece of evidence, and then you present it, say we're in a court case, and you present it to the jury, and you say, jury, this is my evidence that the accused is guilty. Then the jury looks at the evidence, and then they decide whether or not he is guilty or he's not. And what I'm saying is, my whole point to this argument is that the evidence on the atheist side is very thin, but the evidence on there pointing towards a creator God, I believe, is very heavy. So what I'm saying is that it's more reasonable to go with the fact that there is a God, a creator, a God.
Well, it's just an appeal to personal ignorance at that point. And there is a great deal of range in each of those numbers that they have. I think the weak magnetic force is the one that's the lowest field that you can have different. You have like from 1 to 100, let's say. Maybe it's from 1 to 10. So okay, but still you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting life, and we don't know what a different universe that was set differently would look like because nobody has done a model to show what that universe would look like. In fact, I don't even know if anyone's done a model to show what our universe looks like using these constraints and plugging it into a computer simulation. Why do monsters exist? They don't. And if you keep going with nonsense, you will not exist on this channel.
This guy is awesome. I know it sounds like I'm really like being critical of him, but I'm not. I'm just, he is cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so there isn't any fine tuning in the universe, and
there you go. So there isn't any fine tuning in the universe. So that's a truth statement in himself. But then 2 minutes, in like his next sentence, he'll be like, "Oh, but we don't really know, and I don't believe in anything." And then he'll just slip in these little truth statements amongst little digs at me. You know what I mean? That I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm a liar. But that's fine. It's just sort of what debate is anyway. I know we're not debating, but we're sort of debating at a distance, aren't we? Really, but.
And you also have to consider the fact that the Earth only exists for about 4.54 billion years. Well, the universe is 13 billion years old. So 13.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, I thought we didn't know.
It's for 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So 9 billion years, there was no life in the universe. Yet the universe was finally tuned for life. Well, no, because it's still not tuned for life because there's no life. Well, that we know of. And then the Earth forms because of gravity, and then there's life. No, because it takes another million years for Earth to cool down. Now there's life.
Okay, it's still fine-tuned though, isn't it? I mean, what you're saying is you're basically bringing time into it. So you're saying that it can't be fine-tuned because it's spaced out over a long period of time. But again, if God is outside of space, matter, and time, time is irrelevant to him. So he can do it in whatever time frame he wants.
Take some more time. So if universe was so fine-tuned for life should be everywhere, but it's not. So it's not.
But then on the flip side of that, you could say, well, because it's not everywhere, but it is here, and there is order from chaos here. Like the moon is moving 4 inches a year further away from the Earth. 4 inches, like what that? And then it's 400 times smaller than the sun, yet 400 times closer than the sun, so you have a perfect eclipse. Why 400? Why not 397 times closer and 403 times bigger? It's all just so perfect, isn't it?
Fine-tuned for life. Life is fine-tuned for the universe. And so this argument is just flawed.
No, he's just playing with semantics.
And I like to say that if things were different, things would be different, but they're not. And all this is big numbers equal God. That's all the fine-tuning argument really is boiled down. And as I said, it's wrong in the first place because fine-tuning doesn't even mean the thing that the apologist thinks that it means. So they're wrong about that. So
no, but it points towards God, doesn't it? It's like if you use your reason and your logic, the most reasonable thing is that, if everything is orderly here, if you think of a Big Bang, how chaotic that is, things just going everywhere, but suddenly we've got this really orderly world. You've got constant physical laws in the universe. We've got holding it all together. Yet, if you had evolution, how did those laws of physics come into be? How did they evolve? But they're stable, and they're always stable, which points towards a mind that put them in place. Do you see? It's like, there's no evidence for macroevolution. We've only got evidence for adaptations. But then we've got these constants as well, even though there's minor changes to us. And another thing is, if you just look at me, okay, I'm not perfectly symmetrical, and nor's any human being. But, why have we got 2 eyes, a nose, and, 2 ears, 10 fingers? Why not 6 and 4? And you know what I mean? If everything's just random mutations we've evolved. Why is it human beings all over the world all have 10 fingers, all have a pair of lungs, all have a heart, all have all these things, but we just have like minor differences, adaptations. You know what I mean? Like different skin color to adapt to the amount of sunlight we get. You see, it's like it all points towards a mind behind it.
That's wrong. Let's see. Getting bad at missing my windows here. All right. Goodbye. Oops, I think I banned them permanently. Oh well. And he goes on, blah blah blah.
See, he's going like, oh, blah blah blah. Just skip over physicist Paul Davis. You know what I mean? What does he know?
I don't care what anyone says.
I don't care what Stephen Hawking says.
Yada 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 yada.
Oh, it's all garbage. Who cares? You know, we'll just skim over all that.
You didn't. Yeah. So the fine tuning.
So basically, he just skimmed over Paul Davis and Stephen Hawking's. And what it actually said was Stephen Hawking says that like I said before, if the Big Bang was a point of a tenth of a second faster or slower, we wouldn't have these conditions. But he hasn't given me anything like any names of scientists or physicists that oppose that, or you know what I mean, any links or any websites. I mean, I guess he did say he did a video on it, which I can watch later.
Tuning does not prove God, nor is it even a thing. You misunderstand it, and so you're just wrong. So none of that proves God.
So he's like, you misunderstand it. No, I understand it very well. And so do these guys understand it. All these people who are a lot more intelligent than me and you, who have like PhDs and they're teaching at universities, they understand it and they approve it. You know, it's like, you know, fine tune doesn't equal God. No, it doesn't equal God, but it points towards God, doesn't it? You know, all these things, like I said, a bit of evidence, and they all point towards making it more reasonable to believe in a God. Therefore, I don't have enough faith to believe in atheism, you see?
And none of that, by the way, shows atheism is false. It's just a mystery. Why is there life? I don't know, because there is. Biological evolution. Yeah, what about it? It's absolutely true. Biological evolution is a...
What is absolutely true? Okay, I want to hear about your reasons for that.
Fact of reality. Whether there's
fact of reality.
And then there's life. Darwinian evolution explains minor changes, but can't explain coding, cellular machinery, and irreducible complexity. Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that we don't use Darwinian evolution. This is outdated. So I don't know why you would use it at all for anything, since he's got the backdrop, but we don't.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, 160 years ago, Darwin was here. There's neo-Darwinian evolution, theories. Excuse me. But I'm saying Darwinian evolution because my audience are going to understand that, aren't they? But obviously, it has, you know, been updated. But still, from my research into this, when Darwin came on the scene, it was a really big thing, and now, like today, it's gone down. It's gone downhill. Like people don't like rate it before because there is no evidence for macroevolution. And Darwin even said this. He said my beliefs are for today, but they will change with more evidence. More or less, they would change with more or less evidence.
Anymore? Do you know what we use? I don't know. I'm not into biology, but we don't use.
Okay, so you're doing a video refuting my video, and you're saying that Darwin evolution is a fact. You're saying, but then you're saying to me, okay, but we're using modern Darwinian evolution. Do you know what it is? I don't. Well, why don't you know? You know what I mean? Like, surely, if this is your thing, and you're refuting my video, and I'm wrong, then why don't you know? Like, because like if you said to me, name me some scholars from Christianity. I'm a Christian. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a cosmologist. I could name you 10 off the bat, you know. And it's like, why haven't you named one scientist so far?
Stuff anymore broadly. We use some of it. Yes, can it explain DNA coding? Sure, I think so. Have to look it up. Did you look it up?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, DNA coding is 4 letters, and apparently if you unravel it, it goes to the moon and back 6 times. Now, how did DNA coding evolve? You know, so like say you had a species that was half as evolved as we are now, what would they have? Half the amount of DNA coding? Like that, Bill Gates said that DNA coding is far more complex than any computer system he's ever seen. And again, if you saw a computer and you saw programming, coding for a computer, you would say there's a mind behind that. So then if you look at our DNA and we have coding in our DNA, again, that points to a mind. And again, it doesn't prove God, but it's another piece of evidence that I would present to a juror and say, look, this points to an intelligent mind.
Why are you asking me? Are you saying that if we don't know the answer, that therefore God? Or are you saying that, let's see, no, okay, so it doesn't explain that necessarily. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Darwinian evolution can explain DNA coding, but not by natural selection alone. Modern understanding is called the modern synthesis or neo-Darwinianism, and it combines Darwin's natural selection with genetics and molecular biology. So by using the outdated system, no, you cannot explain things. You have to use the new system that we now use in science, apparently. So if you're going to refuse to update your system, then no, you're not going to be able to explain things. But not knowing the answer to something doesn't mean God did it. It just means you don't know.
Okay, yeah, but like 2 minutes ago, when you just hadn't researched that, you were claiming that evolution was a fact, and you were saying that the DNA can be explained. So before you'd even Googled that, you were making like statements based on your worldview, which is a atheist worldview. So the thing that you've just said, that Christians just presume something about that research, and you did literally 30 seconds ago.
Let's see. No. Put you on this. You. All right. Can it explain cellular machinery? Yes, it can. Irreducible.
No, it can't. Like again, cellular machinery in a cell, you have it's like a factory floor where you have all these different things going on, and they all need to. If you take one of them out, it doesn't work. So they all have to be there at the same time. But how did they evolve? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Activity doesn't exist. There is no such thing as that. I know you'd like there to be, but there isn't. So
he just deleted it. Like irreducible complexity, like he said, doesn't exist. But again, this is a major argument. Like this book is 20 years old, but they update it every year with all the latest stuff, and it's very detailed. And he quotes scientists, and he's saying that like not being able to explain irreducible complexity is a major thing that scientists can't explain. But then he's just deleting it, and he's not again giving any references, giving any explanation. He's just deleting it.
It can't explain something that doesn't exist. And then somebody said something, I don't care.
Oh yeah, Michael Behe. There you go. You know, like again, another really famous scientist. There we go. And he's just like Michael Behe. Oh, BB. Let's look Behe. Yeah. Biochemist at Lehigh University, leading figure in intelligent design movement. Okay, so he's probably a Christian. Best known for coining the term irreducible complexity. He argues that certain cellular systems are too complex to have evolved by chance and therefore point to design. Key examples he used: bacteria flagellum, like an outboard motor in bacteria, blood clotting cascade, and cilium, that's in brackets cellular hairs. Famous quotes: "Reducible complexity is just a fancy way of saying if you take one part away, it doesn't work anymore. The conclusion of intelligent design flows naturally from the data itself, not from holy books or sectarian beliefs." So whilst cosmologists like Martin Rees, Luke Barnes, Paul Davies focus on the fine-tuning of physics, Behe is a fine-tuning advocate in biology, showing that life itself has hallmarks of design at a molecular level. See, again, like, but he probably hasn't even heard of it.
Okay, so this Michael Behe doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's an idiot. Okay.
He's an idiot.
I think he's a creationist. Let's see.
Never even heard of him.
Yeah, he's a creationist. He's an ID proponent. So whatever he says is not going to be true. He doesn't understand science, nor does he want to. He's committed to being a pseudoscientist. So don't listen to that nitwit ever.
There you go. He hasn't. You've read any of his stuff? He's just.
If this is your evidence for God, it's pretty damn bad so far. Oh my goodness, get in there. Okay. And so
it's not my evidence for God. What I'm saying is that it's my evidence for not believing in atheism. You know, it's like. There's no, like I've said this 100 times, but there's no good evidence for there to believe in nothing. You know what I mean? Something came from nothing. You know, that we have in this world. There's meaning, there's purpose, there's love. You know, there's tragedy, there's heartache, there's grief, and when you die, it all just disappears. It's all pointless. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
wrong about the flagellum. All the parts could be broken down, etc. So he's wrong.
See, there you go. He's just saying it could just be broken down there. Therefore, you're wrong. But like, what evidence do you have? Can you name me anyone who refutes him?
Okay, whatever. Morality. Okay. So, right and wrong. Atheists say you don't need God to be good. That's true. You don't need anything to be good other than your own self.
Okay, but what's your definition of good?
Says it's true, but it's not the issue. Okay, cool.
Because the problem is like, if you don't have an objective moral standard, everybody's different opinion of good is different. For example, Adolf Hitler thought that what he was doing was good, and so did Joseph Stalin, and so did Chairman Mao. And but between, was it Mao, Pol Pot, Lenin, and Stalin, they killed 100 million people in the 20th century, and each person thought they were doing good.
I mean, we're done though. But that is the issue. If we don't need God to be good, then we don't need God. The issue is, without God, how do you define good? By human agreement, like with any other word. We humans agree what the word means. There you go.
Okay, cool. So, like I said, Joseph Stalin, Lenin, all the Russians or Soviets at the time. If you're Soviet and you're watching this, I'm not, no disrespect, but they all agreed with him. So him being responsible for the mass murder of millions of people because they agree with him, then it's good. Is that correct? Or you could say you've got one country of 10,000 people and you've got a neighbouring country with more resources of 1,000, but the 10,000 agree that if they take the smaller country, they can have all the resources, and so they kill them. But because majorities rule, so therefore it's good. That's the problem with his logic.
Work, baby. You might not like it, but but you're if you're asking me, you'd have to buy my book, Logic and Morals, because I outline a way of getting morals using logic. So if you want an answer to your question, you buy my book. But here's a better question: How do you define God good with God? Because see, here's the problem that this guy will have to face. He's going to have to explain why his God said slavery was absolutely fine.
He didn't say it was absolutely fine. He said in Genesis that all people are equal under God, and because of that, then you had the human rights movement. Now, it also says in Exodus where God says not to take slaves. Okay, so slavery back then was a bond servant. So somebody, if they got into debt, they would sell themselves into, basically be a bond servant to someone. They would get released every so many years. They had to have a roof over their head and they had to have food. And yeah, the year of the Jubilee, they'd be released. The conception we have of slavery today is through the lens of the 17th and 18th century of what happened with America. But back then it was very different. There was slaves being taken from wars being waged, but you've got to remember that God was speaking to that specific time when Israel were being attacked by the nations, and then when Israel would kill the men, or there would be some men left over, he'd take the women, take the men, and then he would say, look, you have to treat them well. And it was just if you're going to take slaves, at least treat them well. And that was just a thing in a fallen world. God's original plan was not there to be any slaves, all equal under God. Hence why we have human rights today. God's original plan was us not to eat animals, but then when sin entered the world, you just see man falling further and further apart from God. So then God, in the Old Testament, he speaks into situations where he's being progressive. And then if you look into the New Testament, Jesus said there is no slave, was it Jew nor Greeks, was it slave nor free, we're all equal under Christ. There's also the book of Philemon where Paul's saying to Philemon that his slave is now a brother in Christ, to let him go. And there are verses in Exodus about not taking people as slaves. So yeah.
And why his God is okay with stoning people to death, and why his God was upset with people wearing mixed fabrics, because those would all be objective morals. There's 613 different.
Okay, so again, you've got to look at the context of each one, and there's for a specific time. Obviously, we don't believe that today. No Christian ever stones anyone today, but it was for a specific time, 3,000 years ago, and whether or not people actually did get stoned, I don't know, but
all of them. But that doesn't matter.
Even then, still, like, I mean, I haven't got time now to look at the each one of the contexts of the things he's bringing up, but still, that doesn't disprove God. You know what I mean? Like, my argument is, is that I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. So what now he's moving on to, I mean, you could say is a red herring, is that he's talking on about the morality of God. So, you know, anyway. Oops, what's happened?
Oh, we're forgiven for not doing it. So what does it mean to be good if you can be forgiven for doing bad? So you can go on a killing rampage and then say, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. And if you really mean it for real, you get to go to heaven. So what is good in Christianity then?
Okay, what it is if you still have the consequences here on earth of like the authorities of the government. So say like, yeah, like you said, you go on a killing rampage, you still go to prison on earth, so you still have your punishment in this world. But if you like sincerely repent, then you are forgiven spiritually, you know, so you're not distant from God when you die. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty fair.
I think it's very subjective. And it would depend on the Christian you asked. It would depend on the version of God that they believe in. So I think that
See, I'm surprised he said that, because he's an ex-Christian. Because like the most subjective thing to do with morality is actually an atheist. Because like I said like earlier, they all believe in different things. Whereas Western countries, the ones who are built on Christianity, it was all built on the Ten Commandments. So like now, obviously, a lot of these countries are becoming more sort of secular. But like say, you know, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever, you could go to any like traditionally Christian country and you would know not to murder people. You know, like you would have a pretty good idea of the things you can't do, because it was all built on the Ten Commandments. So there is room for interpretation, you know, because not every two crimes are different, but you know, it's pretty objective, you know, the Ten Commandments.
divine command theory has way more problems than it offers any solution to. It just pretends to offer a solution. All it does is say, God said it, you do it. That's what makes it right, is that God says it. But
no, but like you're saying, there's many problems. But like, if you think of about philosophically, okay, so if divine command theory, so God made this world. Now he knows, if he made the world and he made people in the world, he knows what's best for those people. Just like Ford would know, who make cars, they would give you a manual on how that car runs. So if I had a car and the manual says you must water the car, you must, you know, check the tread on the tires, you must check the oil. If I do that, then the car's going to run properly. If I ignore that and do my own thing, then the car's probably going to break down. And then if it broke down, then I could look in the manual and then try and find out, you know, what's wrong with the car, because Ford made the car. They can tell me because they know best. So philosophically, divine command theory makes the most sense. If I believe the Christian God made this world. So anyway, if you're an atheist, keep with me on this. If the Christian God made the world, he knows what's best for the people in the world, what's best for them, and best to run the world. So it makes perfect sense.
no, that doesn't make it right. So this guy doesn't understand morality.
Yeah, I think I understand morality pretty well, thank you. Like, also, with regards to the standard of good, which, like I said, your standard of good is that whatever the majority of people believe, but we believe that God is the standard of good. So, you know, it's very objective. It's very easy to follow.
You can find good without God. If we're just stardust appeal to consequence, we are just stardust. But who decides right and wrong? I do, or we do. I do. You do. We do. Okay. That's the answer. That is the answer. We decide that amongst ourselves. That's it.
Well, we have free will, so yeah, fair enough.
You think that genocide is wrong?
Here we go. So now he's going on to genocide again. Like, I don't see why this has got to do with why I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. But if you want me to talk about genocide, I can pretty quickly. So the Canaanites were sacrificing children. They were worshipping Satan. They were attacking the Israelites for 400 years. Oh, it's balloons. And God warned them, you know, stop doing this or there will be consequences. So then he tells the Israelites to kill the Canaanites, but then you read later on in passages they're being Canaanites. So it's likely that it was hyperbole. But again, you know, God's considered harsh for punishing people, warning people, and then punishing them. But then if he didn't, punish them, then people would call God a liar for having these rules and warning them and not doing anything about it. So either way, God can't win.
Don't know if this guy's gonna watch this video, but